Hi guys, I'm Joe. I'm one of the directors of AP Morgan. Today we're going to be looking into how you can add value to your property with a few simple steps that you may want to take advantage of when either choosing to sell or rent a property.
Hi guys, I'm Abdul and I'm really excited about the video we're about to see today.
We just want to deliver a great customer service. Don't you want a great service?
So we see properties all the time that really aren't reaching their full potential when looking to rent or sell. And as a valuer, I'm going out and spotting a lot of things that could be done to help people achieve a better price. Now, this doesn't have to be something big like a brand new kitchen or getting Alan Titchmarsh out to landscape your garden, but it's actually down to simply the littlest things that can have the biggest impact. So you might be sitting there saying, well, Joe, my house is really nice, it's spacious, it's got a good garden, it's in a great location. What more can I really do to increase its value? To that, I'd say there's still a few things that you can do. Remember, a property's value is not just based on how many bedrooms you've got, the square footage, if you live next door to a good school. It's also impacted by the general look of your property. But before we dive into what you can actually do to increase the value, it's important that you understand a few things to be able to assess what actually needs to be done in terms of marketing your property. Market value is really important, but before we get into the nitty-gritty, we should define what it means. Market value is the price that a property should sell for on a day of evaluation. This is dependent on the overall property market, supply and demand, and what other similar properties are sold for in the same condition. It's important that you know when buying that the market price isn't necessarily the price that you should be paying. Comparable sales are possibly one of the most important things you can look into to determine what your property's value is. It is one of the most basic form of property valuations and it's incredibly useful. If the property that you are looking to buy or sell is a 2-bedroom and in your research you are looking at properties that are 3 bedrooms, you aren't going to get a value that's realistic. There's not much point in searching for a property that is a similar size to yours, but it's 5 miles away. Look for a property ideally on the same road. Even if it's sold in the last 2 years, this will give you the best and most accurate valuation starting point. Certain aspects can also make a property more attractive and ultimately help you to get a higher price when going onto the market. Ensuite bathrooms, off-road parking, newly decorated rooms, extensions, conservatories, even south-facing gardens. You should compare your property to another which is like for like. This will mean not just the number of bedrooms, bathrooms, whether it's a similar sized garden, but also the condition of the property and its rooms. It's good practice to look at a property and notice things like if it's got a nicer kitchen than yours, if the garden is as big as yours or as well kept. These are important to me as a valuer that I would take into consideration and certainly make recommendations or anything that needs updating or fixing in the house that I go out to see. So adding lighting can be one of the most beneficial things that you can do to help sell a property. Now, I'm not saying you're going to have to start putting in extensions and putting in dome lights, etc. But actually, if you've got the space to do so, let's say you've got an older property that wasn't always built with natural light, in mind. But then let's say that older property has an extension. Now, typically an extension with a conservatory that has a polycarb roof that doesn't always allow natural lighting to come in. So perhaps by changing that polycarb roof to a glass roof, now I appreciate it's expensive, but it could add value to your property by allowing the room the conservatory comes off to have more natural light coming through. Or let's say you've got a flat roof extension by putting in a tunnel light. Certainly a tunnel light would benefit with a property that has a dark landing space. So as you walk up the stairs and all the doors are closed, it becomes very dark and sort of quite closed. But by putting a tunnel light that allows natural light to come into that landing space can actually make your home feel more light and airy. Let's say some certain part of your house is a flat roof extension and it's only got windows across the front or across the back. By putting in a sky lantern, now I know you're going to say they're really expensive and I'm not saying go out and buy one, but from experience, whenever we've sold a property that has a flat roof extension that is one of the main features of the house. Spending that little bit extra money has actually benefited them by what they've sold the property for. So all I would say to you is think about whether or not your property has enough adequate lighting to show it off for its true potential. So let's talk about the heart of the home, the kitchen. Kitchens play a huge part in the potential for what a property could sell for. I'm always being told nowadays the heart of the home is the kitchen, and I believe that. You know, I've got a family, and where we spend a lot of our time is our entertaining space. It's the kitchen, diner, the family room, whatever you want to call it. It's a space where people come together to cook, to clean, to do homework at breakfast bars. Now, I'm not saying you go out and spend £20,000 on a new kitchen, but certainly by ensuring that the kitchen's in the best of conditions. So if some of the kickboards are discoloured or marked, replace them. They're not expensive, you know, or some of the doors are starting to warp, or if you've got a solid wood kitchen and it's looking a bit 1990s, I would certainly look at buying perhaps some paint, or perhaps getting, you know, new doors. The carcasses you haven't got to change, but improving the heart of the home will really benefit yourselves to achieve, you know, the most money you can when selling your property. Now, what's the first thing you see when you are looking to buy a property? It's the front photo. So how can we as agents, or how can you certainly actually as the owner, make your property stand out from the crowd? Now, go outside, have a look at the front of your house, and actually tell me, is that the house that you would look to purchase? Now, obviously not because you're selling, or you're thinking of selling, but look at it from a buyer's perspective. You know, are the weeds outside the front? Is the drive, you know, does it need redoing? You know, I'm not saying again, go out and put a new drive in, but certainly by de-weeding, if you've got block paving, you know, commonly I've got block paving and I'm every 6 months getting the jet wash out. Now, if you can ensure that the front of your house looks just as good as the inside, you're gonna get people through the door. So curb appeal, I would say, is really, really important, you know, when actually ensuring that the first thing that people see looks its best. So if you guys are anything like me and you've been putting that list of jobs off for the last 6 months, now's the time to get them done. Now let's start from the front of the house. So I talked earlier about getting the drive done, but are your windows clean? Is the guttering done? Are the fascias, you know, are they clean? It's all about presentation. If you've got any rendering outside the front of your house, is it peeling? You know, get it painted, get it looked at. I'm not telling people to spend tens of thousands of pounds, but what we're going to be looking at doing is making what was in some occasions someone's biggest asset worth the most money, and how we can help you get the most for your property. So odd jobs are, I talked about your driveway, making sure that there's no weeds at the front, you know, it's clean. The front of the house especially, you know, your front porch, make sure your front door, if it's discoloured because you get a lot of sun on the front of your house, get the front door painted. You haven't got to replace it. You know, you can go to your local hardware store and you can get paint specifically for exterior parts of the building. It's not expensive. I would recommend, if you've got a good friend, invite them round for some lunch, but grab a pen and paper and ask their opinion if they was buying your property, what they would change. Now also get them to tell you what they like about your property, because what you've got to remember, what's old to you is new to somebody else. But there's also things that are very personal to you that perhaps could stop you from selling your property. So what I would recommend you do is walk around the whole of the property, front to back, upstairs, downstairs, and ask their honest opinion on what they would want to change. And then look back once they've left on what you could do to change and actually improve, from a third party's opinion, to improve the saleability of your property. Should you be lucky enough to have a unique selling feature, ensure that the marketing agent is aware of this or these. Now it could be simply down to a good school, could be down to a south-facing garden. Ensure that it's on the advert. Now if you're doing your own viewings, please make sure the buyer's aware of this. But if the agent's doing the viewings, make sure it's all over the particulars. Make sure they're telling the buyers about these unique features, because it could make the difference from what your actual property is worth to what potentially you could get. The only real way to determine the value of your property is by getting a professional opinion. Most estate and letting agents won't actually charge you for a valuation. The way I value a property, I would always look at it from a buyer's perspective. So what would I change, or what am I looking for if I was looking to purchase the property? And really, that is the best way to have a property valued, by going with an estate agent that's going to look locally for comparables, but also take your property on its merits, but also tell you about the things that aren't quite right with it and how you can actually improve. So if you've not already done so, have your property valued, see what it's worth, get a recommendation, professional opinion on what they would do if they was to help you sell your property, and more importantly, what you could potentially achieve if you was to make a few little changes. Now, you haven't got to sell your property, but it's good to know what it's worth. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you've got any comments, please drop them in the comments below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell so you can be notified of every time we upload our latest videos.